Okay, number 5, I got the Mormons, the Hail Mormons, covering 3 at Missouri. This pick is mostly because of all the turmoil that's going on in Missouri, and also because Missouri has, I believe, they scored their first touchdown last week since the beginning of October. And I don't care what anybody says. You can talk about whatever the heck's happened there with racism and firing presidents and all that. None of them's going to help them score any touchdowns on Saturday. So, or whatever day. I think it's Saturday. I like BYU only getting 3. This line actually is all over the place. I saw it at 1 at one place. I saw it at 4.5. I saw it in 3 in a bunch of places. So that's what I ended up settling it as. But do you think BYU has any problems going to Missouri and disrupting all the chaos on campus?
No, I don't think they have any problem with that. And I hate to keep agreeing with you, but yeah, Missouri scored 13 points last week, and that was a bit of an offensive explosion.
Yeah.
Missouri sucks. I mean,
Exactly.
They're awful. One of the worst Power 5 conference teams right now.
Yeah.
I'd actually like to see the fans boycott the team.
That would be interesting.
The alumni fans just they can play in front of an empty stadium.
Well, the dumbest thing they did was come out and say, the one kid coming out and saying, well, if we were 9-0, I mean, we would be playing this game. That shows you how stupid the whole thing is. I mean, obviously,
Absolutely.
I'm not saying that the issue at hand is stupid, but clearly when you're 4-5, it's easier to protest than when you're 8-1 or 9-0. And
and from what I heard, the president was going to resign anyway. This just kind of expedited the process, but when it comes down to it, Missouri's just a bad football team. I think BYU is an average football team. So 3 points, I don't see them having a problem covering that.
Number 4, the 22nd ranked Temple Owls, only 2.5 point favorites at South Florida, and now South Florida's won, I believe, 3 out of 4 or 4 out of 5. But Temple seems like they're going to lose to a couple teams on their schedule this year that are better than them, but I don't see them losing to a very mediocre South Florida team. And I was very shocked this is only 2.5. I thought it would be somewhere in the 6 range. Do you think Temple has any problems going down to South Florida and playing in front of about 12,000 fans there at Raymond James?
Oh, I think they have a real problem, and I feel like you put this game in here just for me. I mean, I've got a little bit of history with the Bulls there in South Florida.
I know you do.
I'm surprised they don't have a couple national championship wins by now.
If we kept playing NCAA, they would.
But, looking at the two teams, Temple, I agree with you. I think Temple's actually a very good football team.
They impressed me. They play hard.
I mean, they hung with Notre Dame. We're right in there.
They're annoying as hell to play. I know that.
Yeah. Yep. My brain, obviously, I think the smart pick here is Temple. But, the heart says take the Bulls. They're playing to get bowl eligible. They have a couple of hard games left on the schedule. And, one hard game. They got Cincinnati, and then they have that dumpster fire of a UCF team. So they're probably going to get bowl eligible anyway, but I think they do it this week. I like the Bulls with an upset. Yeah,
okay. UCF is just hysterical to watch every week because I don't think they might have pushed one week, but they haven't covered any other week. And it's just they can go up 14-0 and they're still going to lose the game by 20. I'm calling it right now, and I'm calling out Vuja, and I'm calling out Guider, and I'm calling for Todd Heights that NCAA 14 is still out there. The rosters are updated. There are things we can do to do fast play or simming recruiting or whatever it is, but as great as NHL has been the last couple of years when we've delved into it, even with Madden, I'm calling for bringing back of NCAA football for the true dynasty. I know the dynasties have died over the last few years for various reasons, but this is my open casting call for NCAA football to make a return. I mean, you got to admit that was the most fun game we ever played as far as...
Oh, I'm in total agreement. Yeah, total agreement. And
hockey was just too many games.
Even when it was just the two of us, it was still enjoyable, but, the 14 game, a little bit too read option heavy.
Yeah, that's true. We could go back to 13 if we can see if we can get the roster.
Yeah. Yeah, you can count me in. I mean, everyone, obviously, with children and families and jobs and everything, busy lives, but
some of them delay the trip to Nebraska by a few hours.
Yeah. We could, if we can make it happen, you can count me in.
All right, we got one in.
A little bit of recruiting of our own to
I agree.
happen, though, I think.
Number 3, I like Memphis this week. I think they're going to win the game, but either way, getting 6.5 at Houston, it's a strange line. Obviously, Memphis got their butts kicked last week by Navy, but as you know about Navy, they can beat anybody, especially when they get rolling and they get a lead. And Memphis just wasn't ready for the option. They probably don't have the personnel to hang with the option. But Houston really, when you look at their schedule, they beat Louisville early in the year, a young Louisville team by 3. They had to hold on to beat Cincinnati, and they gave up 700 and something yards to Cincinnati. They might win this game, but I don't feel comfortable that they're gonna beat Memphis by a touchdown. I mean, a week ago, this is probably a 2.5 point line, and Memphis might even be favored. So, what do you think about Memphis?
Well, to be quite honest with you, I went back and forth. This was my toughest pick. I did a little bit of research. I know previous year teams don't mean much, but Houston, they've won 5 straight against Memphis.
Okay.
And covered 4 straight years against Memphis.
Wow.
4 straight games.
It's good research.
I like Houston playing at home. I like Houston's coach. I think Tom Herman is one hell of a coach. I think he's probably not going to be there very long.
He's too good for us here.
With all the big name jobs open, but I if you had told me at the beginning of the year that these 2 teams would be 17-1, I think combined, I would have told you you're crazy. But
I was looking for an old. Okay.
I'm going to take the Cougars at home in this.
All right. I was looking for an old email about the AAC because I know views are ripped on how they're going to be irrelevant and never matter anymore and all this. And right now they got 4 teams in the top 25, and I know that none of them are going to make the college football playoff, but they are pretty relevant with 4 out of the top 25 at this time. Obviously, that's as much as I think a couple of the big power conferences. So it's
I
fun.
didn't know that. Who are the other teams from the conference?
Well, yeah, Temple's 22 and Navy's up to 20 now.
Oh, Navy, okay.
Well, Navy's last 15 games, they've won 13 games and they've lost twice to Notre Dame. So they haven't lost to anybody else. And I was talking to a guy here that I work with. He actually used to work at Navy, so he keeps a close eye on it there. And he says they moved into the AAC because they felt really confident that going into that conference that they can be there every year to pretty much win, that conference and be right in the mix for that Power 5, big bowl game.
Yeah.
So, they know that even if they lose the Notre Dame game every year, they're going to basically have a schedule that's full of Air Force, Army, 8 AAC games, and that's going to be a 9-10 win, schedule compared to before when they were playing all these, random conference teams. So
sure,
Navy's annoying as shit to play.
I don't know if Temple has any staying power, but I mean, with other teams, I feel like Memphis are not a power, but they're consistently making bowl games.
Yeah,
7-8 win team.
Houston changes coaches every 2 years.
Around for a little while. It's not a bad conference. You're right.
Houston and NIU have like a similar thing where they're just changing coaches every couple of years and they're still winning games every year. I mean, they had Art Briles and they had Kevin Sumlin, so they've had some good coaches there. Now Herman, he probably not even going to last 1 year there. Speaking of Art Briles, number 2 Baylor covering 3 versus Oklahoma. I kind of understand this line where you're keeping it this low where Baylor hasn't played anybody that's worth a damn. But Baylor's pretty much kicked the crap out of everybody they played. Kansas State did a really good job last week of basically milking the clock, doing the guider running clock, and shortening the game. And it was a true freshman quarterback's first start on the road. Oklahoma's been better lately, but if you look at who Oklahoma's beaten, it's been a bunch of bad teams in a row, and they still got manhandled by a terrible Texas team just a couple weeks ago. What am I missing? Why isn't Baylor a bigger favorite against Oklahoma here?
No, I think you hit the nail on the head with. I think it just really comes down to the Seth Russell injury.
Yeah.
And like you said, the true freshman quarterback. I think he's going to be a little bit better at home. But I'm going to go against you on this one. So I'm going to take Oklahoma. I think Baker Mayfield is better of the 2 quarterbacks. I think. Yes, well, Oklahoma hasn't really played anyone the last 4 weeks. They've looked as good as any team in the country. I don't know what the hell happened in the Red River shootout there, rivalry.
Yeah, it's weird.
I think Oklahoma's a good team.
Yeah.
I mean, both of these 2 teams are kind of getting into the meat and potatoes of their schedule, but I'm looking at a Oklahoma upset there in Waco.
All right. I like. I think the Big 12's in trouble. I think that they're all going to beat each other. I don't think any of them are going to run the table. I'm pretty sure Baylor or Oklahoma is going to beat Oklahoma State. TCU or Oklahoma is going to beat Baylor, and I just think that there's a real scenario where this college football playoff is likely going to end up Clemson. It's likely going to end up Bama, Florida winner if Florida already had beaten Florida State, and then it's gonna, and obviously the Ohio State or Ohio State Iowa winner if it ends up that, and then if Notre Dame beats Stanford or Stanford beats Notre Dame, then they have to beat Utah. I just feel like Big 12, if one of these teams doesn't run the table, they're not getting in with one loss, and it'd be interesting to see if they change their title game, whatever you want to call it, negligence so far, because without that, I mean,
don't they need to add 2 more teams or something to do a title game?
I don't know if that's if they have to do that or if that's the excuse they're using, but I don't understand why they don't do it anyways. Whether if you're not going to add the teams, just play a playoff because you're not playing a tough enough schedule otherwise to justify it, and you can't tell me that the garbage teams that all these teams play in advance of playing each other, it's not holding up. I mean, everybody's yelling for Oklahoma State to move up so high this week, but when you look at Oklahoma State, their non-conference was Central Arkansas, the Chips, and somebody else terrible too. And then they hadn't played any of the good teams in the Big 12, and they almost lost to Texas when they got a lucky penalty on Charlie Strong, and then they almost lost to West Virginia. I think that was overtime. So you can't act like just beating TCU last week. Now all of a sudden they're the 3rd or 4th best team in the country. I don't buy that. But
yeah, and I think that TCU team that they beat up on last week is living a little bit of a life.
Yeah, they're beat up all year.
Yeah, they're not the same team. I still hold strong that TCU was the best team in the country last year.
I think so too. I think they would have won it all. I think they were better than all those teams that made the Final Four. But I don't know if we're ever going to get to 8. I mean, we'll probably get to 8 one day somehow, but this is exactly what we said would happen when you got to 4, that everybody thought getting to 4 solved a lot of problems, but it just creates more problems. Every year having to figure out who was 2 between 2 or 3 teams, but now you're trying to figure out who's 4 between 5 teams.
I think we'll get to 8 at some point, probably sooner rather than later.
Yeah.
If there's money to be made, then it's going to happen.
Number 1 pick for the 4th time this year, the Who's are double-digit underdogs. They've covered the first 3. This line started at 8.5 when it opened up Sunday night. It shot all the way to 13.5. Nothing happened as far as I could find in my research. Pretty disrespectful in this case. Obviously, the Who's haven't won a road game in a long time, but that doesn't mean they haven't covered the road games, which they've been covering all year. And Louisville hasn't really, besides the Syracuse game, I think they only beat one team by 10 points all year. And there's nothing about Louisville this year that makes me think that they're going to blow us out. We're the good bad team. We're good enough to hang around most of these games, and we usually find a way to not win it. And I just think 13.5 is a gift. I mean, I would have taken it at 8.5, maybe not in the top 7, but you think we can cover 13.5 in Papa John's this weekend?
I do. I'm going to agree with you on that. And you kind of stole my thunder there. Louisville, like you said, they blew out Syracuse last week. I think they beat them by 27.
Yeah.
But besides that, they played all close games, except for another one where they blew out some crappy FCS teams. So, I'm in agreement with you. I don't see where this almost 2-touchdown spread is coming from.
Nobody's hurt on our end. I looked everything up. I get all the inside info. Nothing happened, so I was stunned by it. So I'll take it. I love when
I think Virginia's a good team, but I don't think Louisville is either. So
no,
we're looking at a couple average teams.
Right.
Louisville, I think they'll probably beat them, but I don't think it's by more than 7 to 10 points.
Yeah, I kind of feel like it'll be just like last week where we're hanging around within a possession down the stretch.
But, before I get to my upset picks,